Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right, we got some beautiful weather here. I'm Greg Spots, Director of Seattle Department of Transportation, and we're really excited to be here to announce the mayor's plan for the new transportation levy. We all got together 4 weeks ago in Rainier Beach, and we announced the mayor's draft transportation levy proposal for public comment. And we've had a month of extensive public dialogue with all sorts of stakeholders about the $1.35 billion worth of investments in our street system that the mayor proposed. And if I were to summarize what we heard in all these dialogues, I could just put it into 2 words: yes and. We heard from people loud and clear from all walks of life in Seattle, yes, we want to make a big time investment in maintaining and modernizing our streets and bridges. And we heard a lot of great ideas on how we could make the package even better. A few other exciting developments that happened in April. The Seattle City Council unanimously adopted the Seattle Transportation Plan, establishing a 20-year framework for investments in our transportation system. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership on that plan. That means that we have broad political consensus around the core ideas that inform the mayor's levy proposal. Also, in the last month, we've had 2 groundbreakings of levy-funded projects under the current levy to move Seattle. So far in 2024, we've doubled the pace of construction starts. It was 1 a month the past 2 years. Now we're at 2 a month. We've done 8 construction starts in 4 months, and we're going to keep going at that pace or even faster as we finish strong on the existing levy. So at this point, I'd love to pass it to Mayor Bruce Harrell to tell you about the additional investments in the revised package.
Thank you, Director Spots. Thank you. In addition to Director Spots for his leadership and the SDOT, quite candidly, there's so many people to thank. I'm not sure where to start. Thank you for being here this afternoon, but most importantly for the last year and in the last month, thank you for so many folks that care about transportation safety and maintenance in this great city of ours. This is one of the few times where I'm not sure where to start. This is such a broad and diverse coalition of leaders and advocates representing neighborhoods and communities, businesses and workers, climate warriors and activists, equity advocates, disability advocates. Truly Seattle at its best. And when I say Seattle at its best, this is a great day. Look at it. And let me just address one thing before I go into the further substance of what this exciting news we're going to announce. Chris, you look really cool sitting there right now. But you look so cool, you're almost distracting. Our focus from day one on the levy process was to create a package that invests in the essential needs of our communities and creates a safe and welcome and reliable transportation system. It's to build a consensus across communities that historically could be at odds with one another, thinking about their priorities should be in front of another particular advocacy group. That's not a one Seattle approach on how we approach transportation. I'm very proud of the Seattle Department of Transportation on calibrating the need for an investment strategy that listens to everybody. We know there's still work to do to fulfill our vision for Seattle's transportation systems. Bridges we all can depend upon. Buses carrying students and workers get slowed down by traffic. We know that our sidewalks are buckled and need repairs to be safe and accessible. We know that our streets have potholes that slows down everyone, regardless as to your mode of transportation. Fortunately, we have some amazing work at hand. Director Spots talked about the pace by which we are spending our Move Seattle dollars. More rapid ride bus services coming to neighborhoods, community support for investing in a safe, reliable, and connected Seattle has never been higher. So since we announced our draft proposal, Director Spots and our SDOT levy team and my staff and I've been actively engaging with community groups and city boards and commissions, and most importantly, leading by listening. We've used public polling, in-depth briefings, multicultural media, roundtables in City Hall to learn exactly what this city wants. We engaged with over 60 organizations through 4 mayor roundtable events, conducted over 850 conversations with the public at 9 tabling events. We had close to 2,000 community questionnaires completed. We are aggressively staying aligned with what people want. So today's updated levy proposal is a reflection of those conversations and this listening exercise, balancing essential needs and affordability. And now we are proud to announce that we'll allocate an additional $100 million to fund priorities raised by our neighbors, bringing our final proposal that we will introduce to the City Council to $1.45 billion. This is big thinking. Let me talk a little bit about the composition of the 1.45. $221 million to keep Seattle bridges in a reliable working condition. We're adding $3 million to expand bridge preservation so bridges are well maintained, and we're not subtle when we're right here looking at a few bridges. We're not trying to be subtle. $162 million to make Vision Zero safety improvements to streets and sidewalks and intersections and crossings to reduce traffic collisions, adding $41 million to fund neighborhood-initiated projects, and $14 million to address emergent community concerns. $145 million to connect people safely to transit hubs. We realize that we still are in a city where people are hungry for good transit. This includes linked light rail stations and bus stops, which includes a $23 million addition to improve transit reliability and safety, reflecting this, again, this region's love for transit. Yes. $135 million to build and repair sidewalks. And we've heard that the pace, we're building sidewalks, and we've heard about the pace, and making sidewalk repairs was not enough. So we're accelerating sidewalk construction with a surge to build 250 blocks in 4 years and establishing a task force for innovative approaches. Now this will, this doubles our sidewalk construction pace with the levy, accompanied by an additional $26 million for pedestrian safety. $114 million to expand our protected bike lane network and connect schools to bike paths. We've spoke to bike safety groups. We're very happy that many have joined us today about the challenge of filling in gaps in the network and goals around safe bike lane in the South End in particular, and added a $20 million investment, increased it to $20 million more to our safe bikeways programs. $66 million to activate public spaces and improve lighting so people can feel comfortable walking in their neighborhoods. This adds $11 million to enhance lighting around transit stops and to create inviting places in our business districts. Again, we talk a lot about transit because we realize the importance and the hunger for a good transit system here in our city. $59 million to make direct investments in addressing climate change, adding $10 million more for EV charging stations and low pollution neighborhoods. And I want to thank the advocates that, again, everything we talk about is, again, not just for our next generation of people, but for our planet and our air and our water. And so we think these are wise investments that we're very proud of. I'm confident that SDOT and the city working together are capable of delivering and making progress. Our proactive planning is supported by a unified vision among residents and businesses for a safe, reliable, and interconnected city, emphasizing and epitomizing the essence of a One Seattle planning effort. If there's one thing we should be proud of is we're not perfect, but we strive to listen to groups. If I've learned one lesson in politics, is been around the block a few times, you just can't please everyone, but you could try to listen to everyone and try to calibrate a package that makes good sense, centered around our needs for safety. And that's what we think we're achieving with this. With this levy, we can make more progress toward our community goals and our approach and our regional challenges with again, our one signature approach. So as I relinquish the microphone, I want to end with how I started. Thank you. This is not a victory lap for our administration. We're going to propose something to the City Council, and then the work begins. The campaign begins. But the advocates, you're advocating for something for other people. for the safety for the children, for safety for people that have challenges getting around our city. Thank you for that advocacy, and we hope this package meets the needs of 51% of the people. I'm just joking. Meets the needs of this great city because we know they are hungry for a great transportation system. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Director Spots.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And before I introduce our next speaker, I want to thank some of the core team been working on developing and enhancing this proposal. From the Mayor's team, Deputy Mayor Adiam Emery, thank you, Adiam, Adonis Ducksworth, and Chris Gregorich. And the SDOT team, if you're from SDOT, raise your hand. Thank you guys so much. People have been working 7 days a week on that. The executive sponsor of this effort is Senior Deputy Director Francisca Stefan, Project Leader Megan Shepard, and then our team members Megan Hoyt, Emily Reardon, Dan Anderson, Serena Lehman, and Katie Olson. Our next speaker is a good friend of mine, one of the people who really welcomed me when I moved to Seattle. And we've been on every mode of transportation together, right, Kirk? How did you get here?
Not paddleboard.
Not paddleboard. Let's canoe this summer. How did you get here today, Kirk?
I rode my bike to light rail.
Oh, nice. If you rode your bike to get here, raise your hand. That's awesome. That's an awesome, almost 10 folks. We need like bike parking next time at our transportation press conferences. Kirk is one of Seattle's most passionate and knowledgeable advocates for sustainable transportation and a great friend and advisor to all of us in how to have an equitable system that works for all people. I'd like to introduce Kirk Hovenkotter, Director of Transportation Choices Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I'm blushing, and thank you, Mayor Harrell. I'm Kirk Hovenkotter. I'm the Executive Director of Transportation Choices Coalition. We're Washington State's nonprofit advocate for a safe, equitable, and sustainable transportation system. Just over a month ago, I stood with the mayor at the announcement of the draft levy proposal on a much, much rainier, grayer day. I was excited about that proposal, but we knew that Seattle transit riders were hungry for investment. And if anyone was out in Bellevue and Redmond this past Saturday for the Sound Transit 2 line opening, you can see that there is a passion, a palpable enthusiasm for transit investment in our region. People want to be able to make light rail an everyday part of their lives, and they want to be able to get around Seattle without having to be dependent on a car. Over the last month, we shared what we heard from transit riders on the proposal with mayor and staff. We heard from transit riders who are frustrated that their bus gets stuck in traffic. We heard from residents in North Seattle and Judkins Park who want a safe walk to the 3 new light rail stations that are going to open in Seattle in the next 3 years. And I believe that the mayor's final proposal is the answer to those riders' calls. We're thrilled that it invests another $20 million in priority transit investments that will speed up bus trips and get riders out of traffic. We know that transit trips start at everyone's front door. We are excited that the mayor invested an additional $26 million in to fill key gaps in our sidewalk network to connect people to light rail stops and our busiest bus stops. This plan gets people rolling by investing another $20 million in safe bike paths. And it answers our city's urgent need for safe places for people to walk, bike, and roll by committing to a surge in sidewalk spending. It moves forward by moving forward the spending on sidewalks to the first 4 years of the levy. And by doing that, it's going to make Seattle a national leader. These are the investments that Seattle transit riders have been waiting for. I want to commend the mayor and the staff for shaping this proposal. We feel heard. We think this is the right investment to make the city more affordable and accessible. We know that these are popular investments. They'll benefit every single person in our city, whether they walk, bike, ride, take transit, drive, or paddleboard. Seattle voters want a levy that's ambitious about the basics. And for a city that wants to lead in the 21st century, the basics are safe walks to transit, bus lanes that speed up buses, active public spaces, and protected bike lanes, along with smooth roads and strong bridges. We know that these investments will make Seattle safer and are incredibly popular. We think this is a great foundation, and we're excited to work with the council on finishing touches, and we look forward to working with them to send it promptly to voters. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Great job. Thank you so much, Kirk. If we had like a Puget Sound region Hall of Fame for transportation ballot initiatives, our next speaker, Rachel Smith, would be a member of that Hall of Fame. Rachel, you've been part of just about every transportation measure for the last 15 years. It's great to see that, Kirk currently runs TCC, but you were a field director for TCC in 2006, and you've worked for King County and Sound Transit, and now in your current role leading our Chamber of Commerce, you're really one of the great folks shaping an environment where we can invest together in a growing and dynamic city. So I'm so happy to have you here today. Let's hear it for Rachel Smith, President and CEO of Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Smith, President and CEO of the Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. And as Greg was saying, many of you know I spent many years in government. In fact, I like to say that I'm recovering from government. And transportation has always been my passion. To me, it is both fundamental and transformational. And that is why I am so excited to be here. And I want to say thank you to Mayor Harrell for his leadership and for putting forward a transportation levy proposal that incorporates feedback from employers, large and small, from across the city. Oh, excuse me. I also want to shout out the SDOT staff and the other city staff who have worked so hard on this and who deal with many, many stakeholders, all of whom are sure we are the best transportation planners in the entire city. The Seattle Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and our friends and partners at the Downtown Seattle Association have come to the table because a thriving, equitable, and inclusive regional economy, our mission, is predicated on Seattleites being able to safely and reliably get to work, get to school, and get back home to their families, as well as enjoy the natural beauty and recreational and cultural opportunities that surround us. To us, this means 5 things. 1, fixing our roads and bridges. 2, investing in safety. 3, making our busiest transit routes more reliable and making it easier to get to light rail, as Kirk was talking about. 4, prioritizing downtown Seattle. And 5, doing the work equitably across the city. The punchline is this: the levy is important, the right stakeholder and voter priorities are reflected, and we look forward to working with the Seattle City Council as it considers the proposal. Investing in transportation adds to our region's prosperity, and prosperity is a good thing. We just need to make sure everyone has access to it. Thanks again to the mayor and to the entire city team for the great work putting this proposal together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker, César García, is one of the first people who took me for a walk in Seattle. When I came here in September 2022, I started a listening tour. And our next 2 speakers, César and Anna, both took me walking or biking in my very first month on the job. César, you took me to one of the last 2 trailer park communities way up north and introduced me to some kids who were in a daycare playing on this tiny little porch of the trailer, and they have nowhere to play. They're not even allowed, people aren't allowed to use the driveway of the trailer park to play, and the parks are very far away, and you have to cross dangerous streets to get there. And it was such a powerful awakening for me about what we can do to make our streets and parks more meaningful and useful for underserved communities. César leads the Lake City Collective. He's been a member of our SDOT Transportation Equity Work Group. We've done several projects up there together. We just finished the Little Brooks Sidewalk project, and we thank you so much for your great efforts on behalf of Lake City. Come on up, César.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here speaking in front of you, and I appreciate the invitation to be part of this in a beautiful park. We have also in the house, we have our park superintendent, APDS, here. Thank you for being a great host. I'm also standing here in memory of community members like Maria Banda, who died from injuries sustained from a hit-and-run driver who is still driving in our community free. Our current levy actually funded a stoplight and improvements around that intersection that will prevent any injuries like that in the future, any fatalities in the future. So that's an example of what a levy can do for our communities. To give you a little bit of a background, I'm going to try to be very quick. But before we started Lake City Collective, my wife, who is a co-director and co-founder of Lake City Collective, she started advocating for a safer crosswalk in our street, where families from different backgrounds, our neighbors, needed to risk getting to the park or school. It took a couple of years, but a marked crosswalk with a flashing beacon is now there as a testament of what community advocacy can do. Fast forward to the pandemic era, now as the collective, and settled in Little Brook thanks to an EDI grant, we did a pilot project with SDOT regarding the program Stay Healthy Streets, to learn why people in Little Brook were not using the routes in the single-family home neighborhoods of Olympic Hills and Cedar Park. The response was very clear. People in Little Brook wanted an opportunity to work safely in their own community, in their own environment, no matter how urban and messy it may be. And that, dear guests, is at the center of what you need to do with levy funds. Work directly with community and CBOs that share the same struggle. Today, what later became the smallest and arguably the most activated Stay Healthy street in Seattle is being transformed into a plaza. And thanks to a partnership with SDOT and with parks, but most importantly, thanks to a partnership, a trusting partnership with SDOT staff. And we need more people like them. We need them to work with us in the long term to advance equity and infrastructure in underinvested communities. Thanks to that and our street mural down the street, we double the size of open space, safe space for our dense community. Public streets and public spaces projects can accomplish this and more in sub-neighborhoods like ours that deserve to have spaces like this in their own community. Unfortunately, we don't have backyards with lawn chairs to sit down and relax and enjoy serene vistas like this with birds chirping and a beautiful stream in front of us. We have noise pollution and uncontrolled pedways that developers are not accounting for, where our kids, and I have my kids right here with me, my 14, 11-year-old, Alder and Aiken, our kids deserve better. Our kids deserve, and this levy can offer that better for them. I'm going to finish with this. In 2 years, we will have the World Cup in our city. Growing up at age 11, oops, I think I just gave you my age. I remember that even though I didn't live close to the Azteca Stadium during the World Cup in 1986, the whole city celebrated, felt safe, and enjoyed just as the tourists did in my city. This event is our 1962 World's Fair of our time. And I submit to you that unless we can build another Space Needle in 2 years, our landmark is going to be the experience on how we safely move people during that event, how safely we move services and goods during that time to make the World Cup of the people from Hillman City to Little Brook. This levy will contribute to that experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's live up to that. What a beautiful vision for the World Cup. Our final speaker, Anna Zivarts, I think you contacted me my first week on the job because it was Week Without Driving was coming up.
It was.
And you asked me if I wanted to join it, and I didn't bring my car here, so every week is a week without driving. So I said, sure, let's do it. And then we went on a bike ride together through District 2. And on Bike Together, we were talking about how Anna's a former bike racer. She's a bike racer and a mom who also isn't able to drive because she's got a vision impairment. And she's a very powerful advocate for the 25% of our society who can't drive. Young, old, people with various health conditions. And how do we make sure that our infrastructure is welcoming to everyone? How do we make sure that you can get your kid to Little League if you can't drive? Anna, you've brought forth so many meaningful and powerful stories about how we, the people that we need to help as we make a transportation system for all. So representing Disability Mobility Initiative, Disability Rights Washington, I'm really proud to introduce Anna Zivarts.
Good morning. I woke up this morning and I was really excited that our friend the zebra in North Bend was still on the loose and I could rock this outfit. Vaguely, yeah, appropriate for today. So, hi everyone, Anna. I work for Disability Rights Washington and I direct a program called the Disability Mobility Initiative that organizes non-drivers across our state. And we actually have new numbers from a study from the JTC where actually 30% of the state population is non-drivers. And it's probably even higher here in the city of Seattle, where we do have such a great transit system, wonderful buses, and sidewalks in much of our city. But there's much of our city that isn't accessible. 60% of our streets have sidewalks that are either missing or inaccessible, and we have to fix that. And we're excited to be here today because this levy proposal really does start to address that gap. The accelerated sidewalk construction is a big step forward. And also there's a recognition that this isn't going to be enough with the money in the levy to complete that sidewalk network, but there's a process to get there, to figure out how we're going to get that additional funding. We need to have our sidewalk network be complete and accessible so that everyone can get where they need to go without driving, even if they can't drive, if they can drive, that our city can be an accessible place that's inclusive for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Come on up.
Or we could do open for Q&A.
Whatever you prefer.
Yeah, why don't we do that? So we're going to open up for Q&A to the media and then the speakers. If you're going to answer the question, if you can come to the mic for does anyone have any questions?
All right, so you're making the biggest levy request in city history even bigger. Are you worried that you're asking for too much?
For those that didn't hear the question, the preface was this will be the biggest transportation measure in history. Are we worried that we're asking for too much? We think we've tendered a smart package to the voters. The point of the outreach is to make sure we are aligned with what they want. So we think we are tendering a proposal that the voters will approve. We also have discussions with people on fixed income, people that realize that they're struggling to still buy a loaf of bread in the city. And so we try to calibrate the need for someone that is still worried about their financial situation, calibrating that against the need for the system we have to be the city we want it to be. So we think this is the right amount, and hopefully the voters will agree with us.
Vision Zero is a 2030 plan that falls within the scope of this levy. How confident are you that we're going to get to close to zero traffic deaths and serious injuries by 2030 with this levy?
Yeah, thanks, Erica. Again, for those that didn't hear, with our Vision Zero target of 2030, how does that align with what we're trying to do, and how confident are we in meeting that goal? Director Spots, I'll let you take a shot at it.
Sure. So, you know, the mayor's first priority for me in arriving here was to strengthen our safety programs. And after our top to bottom review of Vision Zero, I appointed our first Chief Transportation Safety Officer, Vanu Namadi, and we're seeing a lot of faster progress on making safety related investments that are data driven under Vanu's leadership. So I'm very confident that we have the people, the systems, the technology, and the funding needed to start really significantly reducing the number of people killed and seriously injured on our streets. And so far this year, we actually do have a reduction in the number of deaths in the first 4 months. Sure, I mean, the levy's significantly increasing our investments in safety. There's a large, 9-figure section for safety, but we've infused safety within all aspects of the different categories of investments. And I think a place where we're bringing some innovation is with this maintain and modernize concept. We're going to make streets safer when we pave them by making investments in better connectivity for walking, biking, and transit. And we're going to do that when we invest in bridges. So we're not just going to lock in an outdated street design from the 60s. We're going to actually update it and make it safer. So I think the entire package will drive a safety outcome.
One of the concerns that's been raised is that this proposal includes less concrete targets than Move Seattle. There's no target for, it's mentioned the bike network, for example, a lot of candidate projects and not specific commitments. Can you speak to what that looks like in the final proposal and whether you're concerned that there is enough specificity about what you're going to do with the levy funding?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, sure.
So the question is, how are we balancing specificity of exactly where we're going to make these investments and the number of widgets we're going to make in each category, with having some flexibility. The current levy to Move Seattle has 30 different categories of investments, and we thought, having gone through 8 years of implementing it, that maybe it was a little bit too prescriptive in terms of focusing on outputs rather than outcomes. And the mayor's draft proposal tried to strike a balance there and have some more outcomes rather than just counting different types of interventions that we would make. But actually, when you see the legislation we're introducing today, there is quite a bit more specificity in places where different types of investments will be made, and we're looking forward to your coverage about that.
Let me address one thing too. I think you had a follow-up question, but let me respond by saying, from the mayor's perspective, my directive to SDOT were to look at the political landscape as well as what's changed between the last levy. We've shifted to a district system. We now have 7 district council members. I expect each of the 7 district council members to know their district inside and out. So we wanted to bake in a little flexibility for the city councils to know their sidewalks, their streets, their cycle networks, to be able to have that communication. So that is a significant change in how we make political and investment decisions, number one. Number two, we have to be data-driven. And so my directive to SDOT, through the strong leadership of Deputy Mayor Adia Memory, is where does the data lead us? And data is a moving target. Where are the high traffic collisions? Where are pedestrians exposed? And we have to be fluid enough. So we had to bake in a little bit of a flexibility because we continue to gather data on where our high risk areas are. When we looked at where we were delaying the free right turn or prohibiting the right turn, those were not arbitrary decisions. The data led us to these certain areas. And so we continue to work on this levy. Even how we govern it during its 8-year course, it has to be some fluid. So it's very intentional to have some baked in flexibility. As Director Spots talked about, we did have a concrete strike and we had a COVID in the midst of the last levy. And so what we're able to do now, using data and information, that we're able to accelerate the pace by which we start projects. We announced one yesterday over on 11th and 12th. And so we're going to continue to let the data drive our decisions. And we think that's the appropriate approach. And so specific, yes, data-driven, yes, but also fluid enough to address the data as it leads us in the right places. So I appreciate your question. You have a follow-up, go ahead.
It's for you, Mr. Mayor. 9 years ago, when you were on council, you amended the New Seattle levy to include the accessible Mount Baker project. Is that still a priority for you, or do you have any other personal projects that you are hoping that this levy can accomplish?
Yeah. So the question is, I do not have any personal priorities. There's 84 square miles in this city, and I treat them all equally with the lens of equity. That area is one of the areas we've targeted as a city to make sure we have some improvements, and so I'm relying on the expertise and the engineers to help reconfigure that. When I was a district council member, certainly that was a priority, as that should be as a district council member. But as mayor, I not only look at that particular intersection that has been sort of fraught with a lot of issues for the last 30 years, quite candidly, but I have to look at them all equally. So I can't say I have a personal preference. I don't know if any of the engineer types want to chime in on that particular configuration, but it's not a preference of mine, I should say. I'm no longer a District 2 council member, so.
Greg, you mentioned off the top that we're standing here because of the bridges that are in the background. A month ago, there wasn't a lot of specificity about how the levy may improve some of the bridges. Is there any more specificity now about the bridges that you're targeting and what kind of allocation for the bridges?
Question about bridges and which bridges might need investment. Something that I think should the council put this levy on the ballot and the voters approve it, I think something that will really be an amazing legacy piece for this mayor is making a proactive bridge maintenance program that cycles through all the bridges, doing the proactive maintenance that's needed. We currently don't have that. We currently fix things when they're broken, and this package sets up the ability to proactively resurface the bridge deck, redo the expansion joints, repaint the bridge. So there's a lot of proactive maintenance that was all recommended by the bridge audit that this package will enable us to fund. There's also a part of the bridge, a component of the bridge section that will allow us to do project readiness for much larger projects on individual bridges where we would need a large federal funding commitment. And we're going to be able to bring 3 to 5 of those type of large projects to 30% design so that we'll be able to compete for those big time federal funding opportunities that sometimes can bring up to an 80% contribution for those larger projects.
Can you be specific on that? I mean, Magnolia Bridge,
You know, when we do an implementation plan for the levy next year, we'll release more detail on which bridges we'll start developing as those candidates for federal investment.
Okay, that is it. We are done with the press conference. If you have some follow-up questions for Greg, we can do some one-on-ones after this, but we're going to take a photo op right now.